Hi everyone, I'm Robin.
And I'm Jerry.
And this is Savor at Home number
86.
Yes!
Hey!
Did you cheat? Did
No,
you look?
I just guessed.
Okay. What do you say we try an American single malt?
Ooh, I say let's do that.
Before we introduce it, what do you think of when I say single malt?
Scotch.
What about American single malt?
Don't think about it.
There's actually no legal definition currently for American single malt, like there is for single malt Scotch.
What about malt liquor?
We're not going to talk about malt liquor. Let me give you the legal definition of a malt whiskey. It's a whiskey, meaning it is from
Distilled fermented grains.
Great. Produced at not exceeding 80% ABV or 160 proof. So you can't distill it any higher than 80% ABV. That's to retain some of the characteristics of whiskey. It's from a fermented mash of not less than 51% malted barley, right? That's what we said, a majority of malted barley in the mash. And stored at no more than 62.5% ABV or 125 proof in charred new oak containers. The charred new oak. That's kind of the big thing in the US for whiskeys, right? Bourbon, rye, malt whiskey, wheat whiskey. These all have to be stored, aged in new charred oak barrels.
Do they have to be new charred American oak barrels?
They do not have to be
Interesting.
American oak. No.
Bourbon does.
Nope.
Oh,
Any type of oak.
got it.
But I have never heard of a bourbon that's aged in
Canadian
new
oak.
charred Canadian oak or French oak. What we're trying legally is not a malt whiskey in
Okay.
the US.
Okay.
So you want to grab the bottle that
I
we're
do.
trying?
We are trying BALLER single malt whiskey.
What does it say underneath that?
Distilled from barley malt mash by St. George Spirits.
Distilled from barley malt mash is the really important part that I want to point out here. Like I said, it's not technically a malt whiskey in the US, but it does fall under this other classification where it is distilled. It is a whiskey distilled from a malt mash. And that has the same legal definition as a malt whiskey. The only exception is that it can be or is stored in used oak containers. I don't know. Is that a boring thing to talk about? It is. This is a
BALLER.
BALLER whiskey. It's a whiskey distilled from a malt mash. So this is distilled from 100% malted barley. And then it's aged in used barrels.
Got it. Okay.
So
it
yeah,
doesn't fit the legal definition because it's used barrels.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the legal definition for malt whiskey because it's aged in used barrels, but it does fit the legal definition for whiskey distilled from a malt mash.
Got it.
Semantics.
Why does it have this Japanese?
Yeah, so it is Japanese inspired. So this BALLER, produced by St. George Spirits, they're in Alameda, California. They were actually founded in
1982.
Where do you see that?
Founded in 1982.
You read the
Alameda.
back?
No.
So, what?
It's on the back.
Is it on the front?
No.
How did you know 1982? Did you read my notes? So, founded in 1982. That would mean that this year they are
30 years old.
40 years
40
old.
years old. I don't know why I thought 92.
1982, they're 40 years old. They were actually the first small distillery that opened up post Prohibition. And they produce a variety of different spirits. They actually started with eau de vies.
I know that very well.
Yeah, what's an eau de vie?
It's a It's a spirit.
Yeah.
You can drink it. That's all I'll say for
It's
now.
an unaged brandy, essentially, made from fruits, fruit brandy. Baller is their release that is a California take on the Japanese spin on Scotch whiskey.
Wow. It's a lot of
So,
spins.
There's a lot of spins.
Well, then let's
Yeah, so
try
this is why we're not ready yet. I haven't finished talking about it.
Okay.
That's what the artwork is about. That's why it's Japanese
Is he
inspired.
Is he killing the dragon? I think the dragon's trying to drink the whiskey, and the distiller, who is also a samurai, is preventing that from happening.
Okay.
You guys could be the judge.
So the artwork was actually done by a local Oakland artist named Sylvia Solochek Walters.
Oh.
So you can ask her. It's called Baller because it's intended to be a highball whiskey.
Shot call or...
Yeah. So it's produced from 100% malted barley. They primarily use 2-row pale malt. It's distilled using their eau de vie stills. And then it's originally aged in both ex-bourbon barrels and ex-wine barrels, French oak wine barrels. Then they take that and they filter it through maple charcoal. And then they finish it for about 6 months to a year in their ex-umeshu casks.
Interesting. What's umeshu?
It's a Japanese style of a plum liqueur
Ooh.
using the ume fruits.
Okay.
Ume fruits are kind of like sour plums. And wait, before we try it, I do want to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you guys so much for helping to support the channel. Thanks, Jer. And for being a part of the community that we have
it's
on
a very
Patreon.
neat community.
It is, yeah. Now, if you, the viewer, would like to join us over on Patreon, I know Jerry would love to have more members over on more patrons over on Patreon. Well, or I can
Couple ballers.
leave a link in the description below. Okay, now we can taste. Now this has a really light color to it.
It does. Let's show them.
Yeah.
It's got some funky fruits for me.
What kind of funky fruits?
Well, it's got a lot. Maybe because you said plum, I am getting some plums.
Really? I'm not getting plum, but I am getting like an apricot.
Yeah, apricot. I get some pineapple. Get some tropical. But then I also get
There's
some classic honey.
There's definitely an herbal quality to this.
But it's a nice nose. I enjoy smelling this.
Some like dried thyme.
No.
What do you mean no? It's floral. There's orange blossom.
It is floral.
A little, maybe a little like a green pepper.
I could see that.
There's definitely some mustiness too.
I'll say this. I don't usually like the nose of Japanese whiskeys, and I do like the nose of this, so...
Well, this isn't a Japanese whiskey.
I know it's not, but it's an imitation of...
Yeah. I get like a lemon bar thing on the nose too with like some little graham crackers.
I wasn't expecting that palate. It tastes like a beer. It tastes like a Corona. I don't get too many of the fruity notes that I get on the nose.
I see the beer thing.
Big time in the aftertaste.
But like, it's almost like hops and some alfalfa hay kind of mingled.
I could see the alfalfa hay.
Right, because there's some citrusiness that's coming through. I'm getting almost like kumquats, but it's not quite sweet.
It's not sweet. It's not quite the rind, but more towards the rind than it is the sweetness. I see that. But real big on the finish of tastes like I just took a swig of Corona.
Interesting. So, do you remember trying this at the gym?
No.
So,
Yes. I do.
so
now.
this was one of the things that we tried
Yes.
during the
And I got that
flight
same
night.
I got the same thing.
And it smelled like a skunky beer on the
Yes.
nose.
Yes.
Yeah, that skunky beer thing definitely doesn't come forward on the nose.
No.
But it does have that like
It has it in
hoppy
there.
flavor, which is really interesting.
And I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just calling it out. It's interesting.
The initial flavors that I get are like, this is gonna sound so weird, but the sour figs, the sea figs, ice plant fruits,
Okay.
where it's not quite sweet, but it is kind
Yeah.
of reminiscent of a fig
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Because
And then like an herbal quality to it.
Yeah. I see that. I see that. That's right.
And so it's got a little bit of like a tea finish.
Yes. Yes. Tea is the right word.
What kind of tea though? Green,
Green.
regular old green tea?
Yeah. Not the fancy kind.
Not the fancy kind of green tea?
No.
No, I would say it's the fancy kind of green
Like the
tea.
fancy green tea.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, like a fancy one.
This is fun.
It is fun. How much was this bottle?
I want to say it was 70.
Okay.
Would you say it was worth 70?
No.
Really?
If you want to try something different and interesting, sure.
I really like this. It is something that's different. I think for 70 bucks, like, yeah, it's not priced
is different.
too high.
It's
It's different.
You wanna
You
have
just
it in
said
your
different and
collection.
interesting. I don't
It's
want
different
same and
interesting.
boring. In reading some reviews of this, it does seem a little bit polarizing.
I can see
And
that.
it seems that umeshu is also a little bit polarizing.
Well, either you're going to appreciate that it's different and
Yeah.
interesting and not going to taste like other, whiskeys you find out there, which is really cool. But it also might come across as, I don't like this
Because it's different.
because it's different and
Yeah.
interesting. So,
Yeah, I lean more towards I like this because it's different and interesting. I usually like different and interesting.
yeah,
So
you do.
I like
You're different and interesting.
Thanks. I like when my whiskeys pleasantly surprise me. So, and taste like something that I haven't had before.
If you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get alerted when there are new videos. And check out the Patreon page.
Whoa. Yeah.
Getting good at this.
Let us know if you've tried Baller before
Yeah.
in the comments below.
You're a baller, shot caller, let us know.
So, what do you think qualifies a single malt as a single malt in the US?
You use one malt,
One type of malt?
one malt,
Okay. One single malt.
one single type of malt.
Okay.
Now, one single type of grain. That's not it.
Do you know how many times we've tasted American single malt?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what it is.
And you don't know what it is?
No.
Okay. All right. What about a single malt in Scotland? What about a single malt scotch? Are you kidding?
It's like a healthy urine color.
Jerry! How much do you think those children are going to be picked up on the phone?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, there might be just screaming children in the back of